want to flip it as we go now. It's time to sound off. I want to flip it to the other team, right? The Raiders played a great game, and their interim head coach, Antonio Pierce, here he is talking about the future of the Raiders after that big win over Kansas City.
So we're 2-1 in the division, beating those guys at home. How many times has that happened in the last 25 years with the Raiders? Does anybody know?
Not much.
Yeah.
I don't know the exact number.
Less than a handful, right? So let's go 3. Most of those guys were, gurus. Not a defensive coach who never did it before, right? And did it a certain way, right? Did it our way, right? The Raiders' way, right? He'll figure that out.
That man is not wearing a hat because he has thrown it in the ring.
I love it.
He wants to keep the job.
I love it.
Can he do it?
He can 1,000% do it. Here's the thing. All those players could have given up. They could have said, this is crazy. But Antonio Pierce came in and is a leader of men. I understand people want to go for the young, hotshot, the offensive guru. And sometimes you just need a guy, a tough-nosed guy who says, this is the standard that we need to play at and can galvanize a locker room. And what we're seeing, he is right. He put his resume out there and did it with a little sass, like, oh, how often has that been done? Oh, okay, yeah, I did that. And he should, because he's earned it. He's earned the position. But again, this is a franchise that did not choose Bisaccia before.
Right.
And not Rich Bisaccia. And now we're going to see if they end up doing the same thing or if they listen to players and say, this is the guy that can lead them.
Swagu, does AP deserve to keep that job full time?
100% he does. I agree with Kmart on that. And it reminds me of Dan Campbell and how he came into Detroit, right? The difference is Detroit went out and they got Jared Goff. You got to have a quarterback in this league. Like, we feel good about what Antonio has been able to do. And I know AP personally, so I'm probably biased a lot about what he is, but you don't have to be biased about the results. And to Kmart's point, she made the point. This team was left for dead. They were reeling and awful with Josh McDaniels as their head coach. There has been an infusion of juice. There has been a response from these players to tell Mark Davis, this is the guy, Mark. Rich Bisaccia was an opportunity that people feel like was missed in Las Vegas when they didn't hire him. But don't get it wrong a second time. He's a champion on the field as a player. He's been around a lot of great coaches. His pedigree is phenomenal, and he has enough relationships internally in the NFL to hire the rest of a staff that I think can have a tremendous amount of success, which seems to become the most important thing when you start talking about a head coach, is who is he going to bring with him?
Right. So that's the thing. He's proven, obviously, that these guys will play for him, and it's a huge part of the job. But there are other things you have to sell ownership on if you want to be the long-term head coach. So, Neek, do you think that Antonio Pierce has done enough? And, a little extra to that question, can he do whatever else it takes to get over the finish line and get that job full-time?
Yeah, I think the only thing that a head coach has to do is the culture setting thing. Like, everything else you can hire around you. I think it's kind of like being a CEO, and what you say impacts the stock market. The coach has a different impact. What he says impacts the team, and that's something he's proven right now. His resume, has he done enough? He's done more than a lot of other coaches who have gotten head coaching jobs. I don't know him or Mark Davis all that well, so I'm not sure that he's perfect for the job, but you can't argue against what he's done. It reminds me a little bit of what happened with Steve Wilkes last year when he took over in Carolina, and they seemed to get better.
Yep.
And then they went out and hired an offensive guru and brought in the coaching staff of a lifetime and got a #1 overall pick at quarterback and got worse. So I don't know. Sometimes you can overthink it. You go ahead and take the guy that you have doing the job as well as you see it being done right now.
Look, they went into Kansas City, double-digit underdogs against a team that they never beat, and they looked like they were sure they were going to win that game. It is time for another edition of Answer the Question with Domonique Foxworth. Nick, we start in Chicago. If you were the Bears and you do end up with the #1 pick, as it looks likely they will, would you keep Justin Fields or draft Caleb Williams?
Yeah, I think you got to draft Caleb Williams as well as Justin Fields has put together some good games at the end of this season. Similar to how he put together some good games at the end of last season, I think having an opportunity to start that clock over with a young quarterback is something you have to do. And it's not just any young quarterback. I think a lot of times we miss on quarterbacks, but this one seems pretty special, and you can't take the opportunity or you can't risk having a great quarterback go somewhere else when you had a chance to get him.
It's fascinating because it's been nearly 12 months since the Bears confronted a decision just like this. Hey, let's go big picture. Which team do you trust most to win the Super Bowl right now?
I mean, I think it has to be the Baltimore Ravens. Maybe it feels a little prisoner of the moment if the moment has been the entire season. Like the one game or the 3 games that the Ravens lost were kind of late game, fluky collapses. But the way that they played yesterday defensively, on Monday, the way they played defensively was impressive. And when you have a player like Lamar Jackson, even if your scheme isn't perfect, you're going to find a way to create some offensive production and some big plays in the passing and running attack. So, yeah, I think the Ravens are a well-coached, well-run team, and they will be competitive in the playoffs. And if I have to pick one team, that's the one I believe in the most right now.
There's not a lot to dislike about the Ravens right now. In the NFC, the Eagles are the defending conference champs. The 49ers have looked like the best team in the NFC this year. Are the Eagles the biggest threat to the Niners in the NFC?
I don't know. I don't think so. This is one of the toughest ones. I'm going to go with the Cowboys and shock you probably, even though they got blown out by the 49ers recently, and they would have to go back to San Francisco, a place where they've lost, in a team that they've lost to a few times in the playoffs. I think their offensive production and their big playability on defense, if this game goes differently, if they get up early, if their quarterback and Dak Prescott can put them in a good situation and put Brock Purdy in that 49ers offensive line on their heels and take the running attack away from them, I think there is a game script where the Cowboys give them a lot more trouble than any other team can.
All right, well, that's certainly possible, and we may get to see it. Cowboys haven't done that with the 49ers in recent years. 49ers also did beat the Eagles pretty badly this year. Eagles 11-4, but they just don't look as dominant as they did last year. We've been saying it for a while. They did break their 3-game losing streak this week, Swagu, with a victory over the Giants. For you, did that ease any of your concerns about the Eagles?
It eased some concerns offensively because they decided to do what their identity is and run the football and had a tremendous amount of success doing it. Problem is they give up too many explosive plays, man. The Eagles defense has given up 8 touchdowns over 20-plus yards this year. But when you look at Jalen Hurts in this offense, and you've always seen the glimmers of it. You've seen them be explosive this season. You've seen Jalen's legs take effect in games. You've seen the passing game come to fruition. But this is the issue. The issue is the amount of big plays that they give up, which is very uncharacteristic. Obviously, they made a defensive coordinator change with changing out Sean Desai, but you still see some of those glaring issues. And look no further than end of the game against the Seattle Seahawks when you give up in man-to-man coverage, you give up a deep shot to Jackson Smith and Jigma, which was the game winner. Now Slay is coming back, and Shaq Leonard played well. He kind of shoring up this linebacker spot. But this is the concern for the Philadelphia Eagles, the defensive side. I think the offense has enough talent to be in games as long as they take care of the football. Defensively, they give up too many explosive plays right now.
Do you agree about the offense?
Yeah, I think, the question of has Jalen regressed?
Yeah.
I think that's a little harsh. I don't think he has. He's not playing as well as he did last year. To me, the turnovers that he's had are a concern, but I don't think this is a kid who suddenly forgot how to play football. I'm not 100% convinced he is 100% healthy. But when I look at the Eagles, to me, it really is the defense, to Marcus's point. We talk about the offensive coordinators that they've lost, and Shane Steichen and Gannon. They also lost Denard Wilson, who a lot of guys like Darius Slay last year is talking about, this guy should be our DC. This guy's amazing. Like, look at the amount of the deep balls that they're giving up. Look at how many yards this secondary is giving up. I think a lot of pieces are missing from this championship team a team that went to the Super Bowl, and it's just harder for them, similar to the Chiefs. But I really think the issues are on defense.
Yeah, it's an interesting point. We focus so much on the coordinators, but Denard Wilson, very well-respected coach that didn't get that DC job, went elsewhere.
Where is he? Baltimore.
Well, how are they doing?
Baltimore. Yeah.
Fox, what do you think?
Yeah, no, I love Denard. I played with him in college, and I followed his career as a coach, and it seems like he has an impact just about everywhere he goes. And you guys already spoiled the big kicker, but it's no coincidence that they're playing some really great defense in the secondary in Baltimore right now when they have a coach like that. And to Kimberly's point, a lot of the players in Philly seem to really respect Denard, and so I'm sure he's going to get some looks coming up here soon for coordinator opportunities this offseason.
Yeah, and to the point about Jalen Hurts, though, I think Kimberly mentions there's this sort of narrative, Neek, that developing, is he regressing? Are we spoiled by Jalen Hurts because we're used to seeing him make significant improvements every single year?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, this happens to all quarterbacks. They have an incredible season, and then it's hard to replicate and hard to duplicate. All quarterbacks have seasons that statistically aren't as great as other ones. The question for Jalen Hurts, we see them be as good as they've ever been in spurts. They can't do it consistently, which isn't all on Jalen Hurts, but we do have to point to some issues that he's had in some key situations, like the interception against the Jets and not running out of bounds in their game against the Giants. There's some uncharacteristic things that may be a result of Jalen Hurts getting unlucky, but also, we've all kind of noticed, he's not, since that knee issue earlier in the season, he hasn't been fully himself this season.